Caitlin Clark went to the Indiana Colts game, the Indianapolis Colts game. Everybody's talking about it. A bunch of footage came out.
The scene was set at Lucas Oil Stadium on October 5th, 2025. The air was electric as the Indianapolis Colts prepared to face off against the Las Vegas Raiders. But before the game kicked off, there was a special ceremony. The city was honoring its other heroes, the Indiana Fever, who had just capped off a thrilling, hard-fought season that took them to the WNBA semifinals.
And we just gotta wait to see what the outcome gonna be with Kathy, man. Covering Caitlin, supporting her throughout her basketball journey, and that's what I will continue to do.
It was a moment of civic pride, a celebration of the bond between Indianapolis and its professional sports teams, a bond that had been growing stronger with every sold-out arena and record-breaking TV audience that followed Clark's every move. As Clark and her teammates, Ari McDonald, Michaela Timpson, and Natasha Howard walked onto the turf, the crowd roared its approval. In a gesture of goodwill and crosstown support, the Colts organization presented each player with a personalized blue and white Colts jersey.
And it looked like a lot of fans feel a type of way, which I don't get it. She made it public. She got every right to not wear the damn jersey. So this is the photo right here that had certain fans in Indiana kind of pissed off.
Their name and WNBA number stitched proudly on the back. It was a customary, well-meaning photo opportunity, a simple exchange of respect between franchises. Her teammates smiled, graciously accepting the gifts. Ari McDonald and Michaela Timpson immediately pulled their new jerseys on over their clothes, posing for the cameras and embracing the moment. And then, all eyes turned to Caitlin Clark. She smiled, a genuine, appreciative smile, as she was handed her own custom number 22 jersey. She held it up for the cameras, displaying her name for the cheering fans. But then, in a move that was as subtle as it was shocking, she did something different. She folded the jersey neatly over her arm. She did not put it on. While her teammates stood proudly in Colts blue, Clark remained in her cropped white tee and loose-fitting jeans, holding the jersey but making a clear, conscious, and very public choice not to wear it. In that silent moment, a line was drawn. A simple gesture had become a loaded statement, and nobody was quite sure what it meant. Was this a snub? An act of disrespect to her new home city? Or was it something else entirely? The truth was far more complicated, and it would send shockwaves through the world of sports. In the digital age, a moment doesn't need a sound to make an explosion. The footage from Lucas Oil Stadium hit the internet like a spark in a tinderbox. Within hours, the clip of Caitlin Clark holding but not wearing the Colts jersey went viral, rapidly gaining traction and accumulating millions of views across platforms like X and Instagram. One post alone, a simple photo with the caption, "LMF Owo Caitlin will not wear that jersey," amassed over 820,000 views in less than a day. The court of public opinion was officially in session, and the initial verdict was harsh. For a segment of the Indianapolis fan base and casual observers across the country, the act was seen as a clear sign of disrespect. The narrative quickly formed. Here was a superstar, new to the city, being honored by the local NFL team, and she couldn't even be bothered to put on the jersey for a photo. The criticism began to pour in. Comment sections and social media threads filled with accusations of arrogance and a lack of gratitude. To these fans, the gesture felt like a snub. The Colts were extending an olive branch, an invitation into the Indianapolis sports family, and Clark had seemingly turned it down in front of the entire world. This backlash wasn't just about a piece of fabric. It tapped into a deeper, more complex dynamic between a city and its star athletes. Fans invest more than just their money. They invest their emotions, their identity, and their civic pride into their teams and players. When they embrace an athlete like Caitlin Clark, they feel a sense of ownership. They see her success as their success, her triumphs as a reflection of their city. In return, there's an unwritten social contract. The athlete is expected to embrace the city back. They are expected to become one of us. By refusing to wear the Colts blue, Clark, in the eyes of her critics, had violated that contract. She had signaled that she was an outsider, a hired gun who was here to play basketball but not to become a true part of the community's fabric. The moment threatened to create a rift between Clark and the very city that had welcomed her as a savior for their WNBA franchise, putting her in a precarious position and raising the stakes of her silent protest to a critical level. But as the storm of criticism raged, another narrative began to emerge, one whispered by those who had followed Caitlin Clark's journey long before she ever wore an Indiana Fever uniform. For them, this wasn't a mystery. It wasn't a snub. It was a statement of loyalty so deep and unwavering that it was hiding in plain sight. The reason Caitlin Clark wouldn't wear an Indianapolis Colts jersey was simple. Her heart already belonged to another team, their AFC rival, the Kansas City Chiefs. This wasn't a new development or a trendy choice. This was a core part of her identity, forged in the heartland of America. Clark grew up in West Des Moines, Iowa, a city just a 3-hour drive from the roaring crowds of Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. In a region without its own NFL franchise, families picked their allegiances, and for the Clarks, the choice was clear. Her father was a Chiefs fan, her brother was a Chiefs fan, and she was raised in the red and gold. Her connection to the team was not a matter of convenience, it was a matter of heritage. As the debate swirled online, the evidence began to surface, dismantling the disrespect narrative piece by piece. The most powerful exhibit was a photograph that had gone viral years earlier. It showed a young Caitlin Clark, long before her fame, decked out in a full Chiefs outfit, a wide grin on her face. This single image was irrefutable proof. This wasn't a bandwagon fan jumping on a championship dynasty. This was a diehard who had been there through thick and thin. She had been a fan during the lean years, long before Patrick Mahomes was a household name or Travis Kelce was a global superstar. Suddenly, the gesture at Lucas Oil Stadium was cast in a completely new light. It wasn't an act of disrespect to the Colts. It was an act of profound respect for the Chiefs. It was a public declaration of an allegiance that ran deeper than her professional address. In a world where athletes often move from city to city, their loyalties tied to their latest contract, Clark's silent refusal was a rare display of authenticity. She was faced with a choice, a polite, performative gesture to appease her new city, or an honest reflection of who she truly was. She chose honesty. She chose loyalty. And in doing so, she was about to receive a powerful endorsement from one of the most respected families in the entire NFL. Just as the debate over Clark's decision reached its peak, a new and powerful voice entered the conversation. One that carried the weight of NFL royalty. Kylie Kelce, wife of the recently retired Philadelphia Eagles legend Jason Kelce and sister-in-law to Chiefs superstar Travis Kelce, took to her podcast, Not Gonna Lie, and delivered a verdict that would shift the entire narrative. She didn't just defend Caitlin Clark, she celebrated her. Speaking of the WNBA, I've just been given yet another reason to be a fan of Caitlin Clark. Kylie began, her tone unequivocal. She then broke down the situation with the clarity of someone who has lived inside the pressures of the NFL world for years. She acknowledged the kindness of the Colts gesture, calling it customary and noting she had seen it happen to her husband many times. But then she delivered the line that would echo across sports media. I co-signed this decision very hard. I think that Caitlin nailed this. Kylie Kelce explained that for a true diehard fan, Clark's action was not only understandable, it was the only correct response. I think that when you are raised a diehard fan of a team, this is the only appropriate response to being given a jersey of another team, she proclaimed. This was not about disrespect. It was about something far more important in the unwritten code of sports: integrity and authenticity. To put on a rival's jersey, even for a moment, would be a betrayal of that lifelong bond. It would be inauthentic. To add weight to her argument, Kylie revealed that her husband Jason had faced similar situations throughout his storied career and had always done the exact same thing as Clark. She also drew a parallel to her own unwavering loyalty. As a diehard Philadelphia Eagles fan, Kylie herself has famously and consistently refused to wear the colors of her brother-in-law's team, the Kansas City Chiefs, even at the Super Bowl. She understood the tribal nature of fandom on a personal level. Her intervention was a masterclass in cultural translation. She took an action that was being misinterpreted by the general public and explained its true meaning within the sacred culture of sports fandom. She wasn't just offering an opinion, she was validating Clark's choice, framing it as an admirable act of character that anyone who has ever truly loved a team could understand. With the backing of the Kelce family, the narrative had officially flipped. Clark was no longer the villain. She was the hero of her own story of loyalty. Kylie Kelce's vocal support had reshaped the public conversation, but the most powerful acknowledgement was yet to come, and it would arrive just as silently as Clark's original gesture. The cosign came from the heart of Chiefs Kingdom itself, from the man who was now arguably the most famous tight end on the planet, Travis Kelce. He didn't need to issue a press release or send out a tweet. On a subsequent episode of his mega-popular New Heights podcast, he sent a clear and unmistakable message. As he and his brother Jason settled in to record, eagle-eyed fans immediately noticed what Travis was wearing. It wasn't Chiefs gear. It was a black and white Nike sweatshirt, and emblazoned on it was a distinct, stylish logo, the new signature emblem for Caitlin Clark. It was a quiet, clever, and incredibly significant gesture. Without saying a word about the jersey incident, Travis Kelce was publicly showing his support for Clark. It was a superstar's nod of approval, a non-verbal signal that said, "I see you, I respect your loyalty." This was more than just a fashion choice. It was a calculated act of mutual respect. Clark had recently become a signature Nike athlete, and her logo was a clever design intertwining the two C's of her name, with a smaller C inside a larger one to represent how her game was forged from the inside out. By wearing her merchandise on his massive platform, Travis was not only returning the favor of her loyalty, but also elevating her brand. He was using his cultural capital to endorse her, not just as a fan of his team, but as a peer in the elite world of professional sports. This subtle exchange perfectly illustrates the new way superstars communicate. It was a form of modern-day diplomacy, conducted not through official channels but through symbolic gestures on personal media platforms. It felt more authentic and personal than any corporate statement could. Clark had publicly stood by her loyalty to his team, and in return, he publicly stood by her. The gesture sparked a wave of excitement online, with fans buzzing about the powerful connection between two of the biggest names in American sports. The narrative arc was now complete. What began as a moment of potential controversy had transformed into a celebrated story of authenticity, culminating in a silent, powerful exchange of respect that was heard loud and clear. While the endorsements from the Kelce family provided powerful external validation, the final, definitive proof of Caitlin Clark's authenticity had to come from the source herself. And it had, in an interview that now seemed prophetic. Months before the jersey incident, Clark had appeared on that very same New Heights podcast, where she sat down with Jason and Travis Kelce and set the record straight about her lifelong allegiance to the Chiefs, preemptively dismantling any future accusations of being a bandwagon fan. Jason Kelce kicked off the conversation, joking that her biggest accomplishment was being a part of Chiefs Kingdom. Clark, with a smile, apologized to the Eagles legend before launching into her origin story. "I'm a Midwest kid," she explained. "I have family in Kansas City, and I grew up in Des Moines, Iowa, which is only 3 hours from Kansas City. So that's just the closest NFL team. My dad was a big Chiefs fan growing up." She was laying out the facts, establishing the geographical and familial roots of her fandom. Then she delivered the knockout blow to any skeptics. With confidence and a touch of pride, she said the words that would become a rallying cry for her supporters. "People think that I'm a bandwagon Chiefs fan, and I'm like, no. I was there before Patrick and Travis. We were ride or dies." In the world of sports, the insult bandwagon fan is one of the most severe, reserved for those who only show up when a team is winning. With that single sentence, Clark didn't just defend herself. She claimed her credibility. She was declaring that she had earned her stripes. She had endured the dark days of the franchise, the years of mediocrity and heartbreaking playoff losses that defined the pre-Mahomes era. She wasn't just a fan, she was a veteran. This proactive defense of her fandom was crucial. In the wake of the Chiefs dynasty and the cultural phenomenon of Travis Kelce's relationship with Taylor Swift, accusations of bandwagoning had become common. By establishing her history on the biggest football podcast in the world, Clark had insulated herself from those claims. She proved she was not a newcomer drawn in by the recent success and celebrity spotlight. She was an old-school, dyed-in-the-wool member of Chiefs Kingdom. The conversation even ended with a light-hearted moment when she admitted that, along with Patrick Mahomes, Travis was her favorite player, earning a cheer from the Kelce brothers. Her appearance on the podcast was the ultimate receipt, a time-stamped piece of evidence that proved her loyalty was, and always had been, the real deal. While the court of public opinion and the NFL's first family had weighed in, one crucial question remained: how did this play out inside the Indiana Fever locker room? Did Clark's public display of loyalty to an out-of-state NFL team cause any friction with the teammates she battled with every night? The answer came from one of her teammates, Sophie Cunningham, and it revealed that far from being a point of contention, Clark's stance was a source of admiration and respect. Speaking on her podcast, Show Me Something, Cunningham made it clear that she wasn't surprised by Clark's decision at all. In fact, she loved it. "I'm not surprised by it because you know what," Cunningham said. "Everyone's trying to get her to wear something or do something, and for her to be like, "Meh, I'm here, but I'm going to represent the Chiefs, baby. I love it." Cunningham's words offered a crucial inside perspective. Her comment, "Everyone's trying to get her to wear something or do something," speaks volumes about the immense pressure and constant demands placed on a superstar of Clark's magnitude. From endorsements to media appearances to public gestures, a modern athlete's identity is constantly being pulled in 1,000 different directions. From this vantage point, Clark's refusal to wear the jersey wasn't an insult to the Colts. It was an act of reclaiming her own identity. It was her drawing a line in the sand and asserting control over her own narrative amidst a whirlwind of expectations. This locker room verdict is perhaps the most telling piece of the puzzle. It shows that her authenticity is not just a brand for public consumption. It's a principle that is recognized and respected by those closest to her. For a teammate like Cunningham, Clark's action wasn't about disrespecting another team. It was about respecting herself. It was a display of the same fierce independence and unwavering character that makes her a generational talent on the court. The support from her own team proved that her loyalty wasn't divisive. It was understood as a fundamental part of who she is, reinforcing the idea that her genuine nature is a source of strength, not conflict. Caitlin Clark's story taps into the very soul of sports fandom, the unwritten rules of loyalty, identity, and belonging that govern our relationship with the teams we love. Her decision to honor her childhood team over her professional city highlights a fundamental truth. A fan's allegiance is often a pure emotional bond forged in youth, while a team's loyalty to a player is at its core a business transaction. And there is no greater cautionary tale in the history of the NFL about this painful dynamic than the story of Dan Marino and his hometown team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Dan Marino was Pittsburgh through and through. He was born and raised in the city, a local legend who stayed home to star at the University of Pittsburgh. In the 1983 NFL Draft, it seemed like destiny. The Steelers, with their legendary quarterback Terry Bradshaw nearing the end of his career, were in need of a successor. And there, waiting for them at pick number 21, was the hometown hero, one of the most gifted passers college football had ever seen. But the Steelers made a decision that would haunt the franchise for 2 decades. They passed on Dan Marino. Instead of drafting the local kid, they chose a defensive lineman who tragically was paralyzed in a car crash just months into his rookie season. Marino fell to the Miami Dolphins at pick 27, and the rest is history. He went on to have one of the greatest careers of any quarterback in NFL history, shattering records and redefining the position. The Steelers, meanwhile, wandered through a quarterback wilderness for the next 20 years, unable to find a true franchise leader until they drafted Ben Roethlisberger in 2004. The irony is devastating. While some Indianapolis fans questioned Clark's loyalty for not wearing a Colts jersey, the city of Pittsburgh had its heart broken when its own team showed no loyalty to its native son. Marino himself has reflected on the moment, stating that he believes he would have won a couple Super Bowls with the dominant defenses the Steelers had in the 80s and 90s. The what-if of it all became a permanent scar on the psyche of the Steelers fan base. Marino, the fan-favorite kid from Pittsburgh, even got his revenge, torching his childhood team for 421 yards and 4 touchdowns in the 1984 AFC Championship game to go to the Super Bowl. The Marino saga serves as the ultimate counterpoint to the debate surrounding Clark. It is a powerful reminder that an athlete's personal fandom is often more steadfast and pure than the cold, hard business of professional sports. It perfectly contextualizes why a bond like the one Clark has with the Chiefs is so sacred, and why betraying that for a simple photo opportunity would have been a betrayal of her own history. In the end, the story of Caitlin Clark and the Indianapolis Colts jersey was never really about a jersey at all. It was about a single silent moment that became a public Rorschach test for our ideas of loyalty, authenticity, and the complex relationship between athletes and the cities they represent. What began as a flicker of online controversy, a moment of perceived disrespect, was systematically revealed to be something else entirely, a profound act of personal integrity. The narrative journey took us from a backlash fueled by misunderstanding to a vindication championed by NFL royalty. We saw how a quiet gesture of support from Travis Kelce spoke louder than any press conference, and how the respect from her own teammates in the Fever locker room confirmed that her authenticity is her greatest strength. The cautionary tale of Dan Marino provided the final crucial piece of context. reminding us that in the world of professional sports, the loyalty of a fan is often the purest and most enduring bond of all. This incident became a microcosm of the Caitlin Clark effect. Her cultural gravity is so immense that a simple wardrobe choice can ignite a national conversation about values. She has proven that her brand is built on more than just her historic three-pointers and dazzling assists. It is built on a foundation of character that resonates with millions. In an era of carefully managed public personas and polished corporate messaging, her refusal to perform an inauthentic gesture was a refreshingly real moment. It was a public declaration that she knows exactly who she is and where she comes from. The ultimate question this leaves us with is a powerful one. In a world that constantly pressures its stars to conform, to be what everyone else wants them to be, could this unwavering loyalty, this fierce commitment to her true self, be the very engine that powers Caitlin Clark's generational talent? Perhaps her refusal to wear the jersey wasn't just about football. Perhaps it was a glimpse into the heart of a champion, showing us that the same conviction that allows her to take a shot from the logo is the very same conviction that guides her life off the court.